Back to throw Garoppolo under some pressure. He is brought down by Quinnen Williams. Off Gore, up the middle, lowers his shoulders, drives his way. What a play by Jamison Crowder.
After back-to-back home games, the Jets hit the road for a battle with the divisional rival Miami Dolphins. And this is the Numbers Game presented by Bet365, the world's favorite sports book, now in New Jersey. I'm your host, Dan Graca. Pleased to be joined, as always, by my co-host from the NFL Network, Cynthia Frelund. And Cynthia, it's great to be with you once again here, and Jets are still trying to get in the win column. How are you?
I'm doing well. I was kind of looking for them coming out to my neck of the woods, but I guess I'll have to wait just a few more weeks to see, a little bit closer to the actual Jets in person.
Absolutely. All good things must come to those who wait, as they say, right? And we'll get to the little schedule switcheroo that the NFL was forced to play. But let's rewind and look at last Sunday's contest against the Arizona Cardinals. Jets came up short, 30-10 the final score, in a game that saw them creep to within 17-10 in the third quarter, but then Arizona would pull away.
It's interesting to watch Kyler Murray and how interestingly his development has gone, right? Like, you've seen games where he's been wildly inaccurate, and then you've seen games like the Jets game where he just was, it seemed like, one-handed catches here and threading the needle there. So it's been interesting to see his development, and it just kind of got unlucky there at the end.
A career afternoon for him in terms of passing yardage as well at the Meadowlands last week. Meantime, the Jets passer, Joe Flacco, the veteran making his first start of the season, didn't do all that bad. 18-33 for 195 and a touchdown pass. Said he was a little tentative at first after the game, and I guess that's to be expected when you miss as much time as he had because he was rehabbing from the neck surgery. But the former Super Bowl MVP settled into a nice groove on Sunday.
No interceptions. That's a nice, welcome situation for any backup quarterback. And when you look to see coming off a neck injury, you want to try to get into that flow. You want to try to see, how do we connect with my receivers? There's a lot that goes on with backup quarterbacks. It's not like you step right in and the chemistry's there. So I actually saw a lot of encouraging things from Joe Flacco that will project forward well against the Dolphins and their defense.
And when you talk about receivers and whatnot, once again for the Jets, you have to start with Jamison Crowder. 8 catches, 116 yards in that game on Sunday, plus a touchdown. I mean, Cynthia, there's no other way around it. He's been their most consistent performer this year. The guy averages about 7 catches and over 100 yards each time he steps out on the field.
Oh, just that many? And if you look to see how he's been doing in the slot just compared to the rest of the league, he actually has the most yards after the catch from the slot for any receiver in the entire National Football League, any pass catcher for that matter, which is really remarkable considering he hasn't played the full complement of games. He was injured, he was banged up, but he's a really big bright spot in this offense, and that projects to also go forward, especially against Miami and their defense.
When you talk about the wide receiver position, Cynthia, it's been a case really all season long of guys coming in and guys coming out. Chris Hogan injures his ankle in that Arizona game. He was placed on IR. Rashad Perryman continues to work his way back from that ankle injury. He might be a go on Sunday. And Denzel Mims, the rookie, as we all anxiously await his season debut, he's off of injured reserve, now on the practice field, so we could be seeing his debut sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what he'll do because adding speed and adding diversity of routes, that will be a nice welcome addition. Although the Jets receivers, considering all of the injuries and all the things that they've had to work with, different quarterbacks, an offensive line struggles in terms of who's healthy, this has been an interesting note that they've actually outperformed kind of what you would think given all of those different constraints that have gone against them.
And in that game Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals, when you look at the rushing attack, Le'Veon Bell was the leading rusher for the Jets, 60 yards on 13 carries. However, that's going to be Le'Veon's last game in the green and white because the two sides parted ways earlier in the week here. So that means more of the focus is going to be shifted on the rookie, La'Mical Pirine from Florida. We've only seen glimpses, Cynthia, of what he's capable of so far this year, but in the remaining 11 games, he's going to get a very long look.
I know that Gainesville isn't necessarily near Miami. However, it's nice he goes to his home state. He's used to playing in the heat. That's going to be a nice welcome, sort of close to homecoming for him, right? So ultimately more opportunities for him and also more opportunities for the entire staff to see what they've got. Who are the pieces of the Jets that are going to be the key factors going forward? So this is a really nice debut for him and a really nice opportunity for him to show exactly where he is now and where his trajectory and how they can use him, where he's all going.
Hang tight there, Cynthia, because we've still got a lot more to do here on the numbers game. And when we come back, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into Sunday's game against the Miami Dolphins, go through some prop bets, and really zero in on some individual performances which could be key to Sunday's outcome. This is the numbers game presented by Bet365, the world's favorite sports book, now in New Jersey.
Join Bet365 now and discover the power of the world's favorite sports book. Watch thousands of live games, build your own bet. You can even bet on games while they're still being played. Seriously. And if you can't watch the games live, we'll alert you of any changes. Nice. We're the world's favorite sports book, and this is no ordinary betting app.
And welcome back into the numbers game presented by Bet365, the world's favorite sports book, now in New Jersey. Dan Graca joined by Cynthia Frelund of the NFL Network. And Cynthia, little bit of a change this week as far as the schedule. Last time you and I were here doing the show, we thought we'd be talking about the Jets heading west to take on the Chargers. Guess again, you know, with everything circling around the COVID virus and the changes that the NFL has to make, during the Jets game last week, as a matter of fact, they announced that, no, the Jets are going to be going to Miami this week to take on the Dolphins. They'll go to L.A. to take on the Chargers week 11, and that bye week, which was week 11, moves up to week number 10. You got all that? Everybody good? You straight, right?
Yes, absolutely. I will say it is really remarkable how everyone's been so flexible. That the list of schedule changes for all of the teams is like as long as, you know, a CVS receipt. So ultimately, watching all the different, I'm just going to let the NFL.com show me where all the things are and just kind of stay focused. It's really, it's remarkable that they can get all of those teams to do it all the different configurations possible, so we can get all these games in.
I always wondered why that receipt at CVS is as long as it is. I mean, it doesn't have to be that long. Just tell me what I bought and that's all right. Another story for another time. Joe Flacco gets his second straight start for the New York Jets here this Sunday against Miami. Good news is that he's undefeated in his career lifetime against those Miami Dolphins. And specifically, you noticed a trend the last few games about the Jets on the opening drive as it pertains to the wide receivers, right?
Yep. So when you look to see how open the wide receivers are, you can look at yards of separation. So, 3 is pretty open because if you think about it, your arms are out wide. It's about 5 feet, maybe 6 feet with your arm distance. So you're going to need to have at least 3 yards of separation. And if you look to see the Jets and watch to see where all the different routes were run and how open each receiver was, on average, they've averaged on those scripted drives, the one that they planned, the one that they know what they're doing, they're not adapting to anything that they're seeing yet. They're almost a full yard more open on the scripted drives in the past 2 games.
All right.
That's pretty remarkable.
All right, so let's talk about one of these wide receivers specifically and have a little prop bet fun as it pertains to him. Let's talk about number 82, right? Jamison Crowder. We mentioned him earlier in the show here. Over under 73 yards for Crowder against the Miami Dolphins. If you're asking me, I think this is an easy one considering how productive he's been. Much over than 73, right?
Yes, and Adam Gase does have a little bit of familiarity with that defense that they're going to be facing, especially Xavier Howard. Probably heard of him before, somehow he's seen him somewhere. So I think this is going to be a situation where Jamison Crowder is going to be the reliable resource for Joe Flacco. Again, in the slot, I don't think, it doesn't matter which team he's playing. I think that is a real 73 seems like that's like first 3 quarters.
That's stealing. That's too easy, we would think, right? Absolutely. That's an easy one. We get you off and rolling nice and easy, build confidence here in the show with a bet like that here. All right, let's keep the receiver theme going here because Jeff Smith, remember, he had the breakout game against the Broncos on the Thursday night, came back a little bit against Arizona, just 3 catches for 23 yards. So let's do another prop here for Jeff Smith. Over under 3 catches for the second-year wideout. What do you think?
I'm going with more again in this situation. Again, this is a defense that's given up tied for the 10th most big plays given up. So big plays are combined rushes or passes of 20-plus gains, so 20-plus yard gains. I think this is a situation where you put speedy Jeff Smith in and you say, hey, Boston College, Brian Flores, coach of the Dolphins, went to Boston College. I went to Boston College. Jeff Smith went to Boston College. See you in the end zone, right? At least 3 catches. Sure. More than that.
I didn't go to Boston College, so I can't really join in on the fun. I'm sorry. Can't do it. Rutgers. Just kidding. Let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball, though. And a guy who's really stood out and made an impression over the first few weeks of the season here is John Franklin Myers. And he's a guy that most Jet fans maybe might not be too familiar with because he really has an interesting story. This is a guy just 2 years ago as a rookie with the LA Rams. He played in the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots. He had a strip sack of Tom Brady in that game. Then the Rams cut him last year. He ended up on the Jets practice squad. He was nursing a groin injury. Now he's back on the field, and you're starting to see the potential and the ability that he has. Had a sack last week against the Arizona Cardinals, and his playing time is continuing to steadily increase, Cynthia. And this is a guy that Jet fans should really keep an eye on.
Absolutely. And again, we're going to give some league context here because pressures overall on quarterbacks in the first 5 weeks of this season are down compared to year averages, right? So typically with years with preseasons, you start to see pressure creep up and start to happen more often, maybe week 2, week 3, as teams kind of gel and kind of can read the offenses more. Well, when you see development like this now, this is when it's coming about in this season. So you'll see an increased opportunity for defenses to have more impact on opposing offenses. And so you're absolutely going to need people to step up. Who cares if you've heard of them or not? They're going to sack the quarterback all in.
Still a lot more to do here on the numbers game. When we return, we'll dive into the opponent for this week, the Miami Dolphins, see what they have up their sleeves as they try to slow down the green and white. This is the numbers game presented by Bet365, the world's favorite sports book, now in New Jersey.
Second down, play action. Flacco back to throw, well protected. Lobs one down the right sideline, wide open. It's Crowder at the 45, at the 30. Breaks a tackle inside the 20. As that time, Jamison Crowder got free and Joe Flacco found him on a deep ball.
Man, if you had some wheels, man. I ain't got no wheel, man.
Flacco takes the snap, drops back, blitz off the edge, looks right, throws right. Crowder makes the catch on a slant, reaches the ball out at the goal line. The ball pops free, but they'll say it's a touchdown.
Touchdown. Let's go.
Good job.
You know, you talk about a guy with some sure hands. That's Jamison Crowder.
And we welcome you back into the numbers game presented by Bet365, the world's favorite sports book, now in New Jersey. Dan Graca alongside Cynthia Frelund. And Cynthia, let's talk about the opponent here in the Miami Dolphins. They're 2-3, but they're coming off a very impressive victory on the road against the San Francisco 49ers, 43-17. However, home has not necessarily been kind to them. They've dropped both of their games at home so far this season, and the Jets are going to try to look to continue that trend when they head to South Beach.
Just so you know, home field advantage this season is tracking at like the third least since they started tracking in, I think, like 1991. So it's home field advantage. It's not the home field advantage this season, just in general with lack of crowd noise and differences due to COVID. Doesn't matter. It's good news for the Jets. It means it's more 50-50 of chance going into it. And
there'll be a familiar face, of course, under center for Miami. It's former Jets quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick, who played a heck of a game last week in that win over the Niners, 22-28 for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. However, Cynthia, whenever he's suited up against the New York Jets, things don't necessarily pan out too well, do they?
3-7 in 10 career games starting against the Jets, a sub 55% completion percentage, under 200 passing yards per game. It's 197.3 for keeping along at home, 14 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, and only a 77.7 passer rating with 10 giveaways.
Ryan Fitzpatrick's 2 wins this year for the Miami Dolphins. He's completed about 84% of his passes, which is like out of this world. And even in the 3 losses, he's somewhere around 65, which is not too shabby. So maybe one trend to look at, if he's going off like over 80% with his completions on Sunday, that might not bode too well for the visitors here. But let's talk about defense. You know, last week the Jets did get to Kyler Murray, but as on the season, they've sacked the quarterback 7 times. On the flip side, Miami has only allowed 8 sacks this season. They've done a nice job of keeping Ryan Fitzpatrick upright. Plus, Fitz, we know, has that mobility so he can escape the pocket. So let's get into one of our other prop bets here. Over under 1.5 sacks for the Jets defense against the Dolphins.
Okay, so I'm going over in this one. I think there's going to be at least 2 sacks by the Jets defense on the Dolphins. Why? Yes, Ryan Fitzpatrick is mobile and he can move defensive people around, defensive pieces around. However, there comes a time when there's enough film that you can see, okay, this is how he's doing it this season. And Chan Gailey is also a familiar face to Jets fans if they know offensive coordinators. So there are some familiarities there in terms of, okay, I can scout you. Oh, okay, I can scout you. So I think that Greg Williams is going to be able to maneuver and bring pressure in times when Ryan Fitzpatrick just won't be able to escape it.
Because you know what? We're going to go right to our last prop bet. And yes, it involves number 82 here. Okay, will Jamison Crowder have a touchdown reception on Sunday? Remember, he's played in 3 games so far this year. He's found the end zone in 2 of the 3. Will he make it 3 out of the 4?
I don't like to talk about Duke people this well, this positively when the brink of basketball season, but yes, he's going to get into the end zone.
I agree with you. That's almost like a given. Death, taxes, Jamison Crowder finds the end zone. One of the few things we could count on so far in a weird 2020 season up until this point. Let's take a look-see at the upcoming schedule for the New York Jets. After Sunday's game against the Miami Dolphins, they're going to keep it in the AFC East. They're going to come back home to MetLife Stadium and take on the Buffalo Bills, a rematch of a Week 1 contest. Then the Jets hit the road again to take on the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. And then it's back home under the lights, primetime Monday Night Football, and the first meeting of the season against the rival New England Patriots. And then we all get some much-needed time off and the rest and the bye week, Cynthia. So, Cynthia, that's all the time we have for this week. This was fun as always. Enjoy that game against the Dolphins, and we'll do this again next week.
Sounds good.
That's Cynthia Frelund. I'm Dan Graca. This is The Numbers Game, presented by Bet365, the world's favorite sportsbook, now in New Jersey. Enjoy the game, everybody.